On this prequel episode, we've got our Scary Stories follow-up polls, and we're previewing the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. Well, welcome back to This Film Is Lit, podcast where we talk about movies that are based on books. We have a pretty short prequel episode this week. We don't have no learning things segment. You can go back if you're new to the podcast. We did the original, or the first Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, a year ago?
It's more than that.
2 years ago. Quite a while ago.
Yeah.
So you can go back and listen to that. I think there was a prequel episode for that. I think. Maybe we were doing that.
Yes, but we weren't doing learning things
Okay.
yet.
Well, you can go listen to that prequel and listen to that episode to get yourself, if you want more This Film Is Lit content this week. But this week we do have a quick follow-up poll segment for Scary Stories. Didn't get a lot of feedback, but we got a little bit. And we have our book and movie facts for Prince Caspian. But first, let's do our polls.
Yeah, so this is going to be a pretty quick segment. We didn't get a lot of feedback on this poll. I thought we would get more.
People were excited about this.
Yeah, people seemed like they were excited about it.
We got a lot of listeners. The episode's doing fine.
Yeah.
We
didn't get any comments on Facebook, but the book did win the poll. Over on Twitter, the poll, the book also went out over there. Yeah, unanimously on both sources.
There you go.
I mean, we only had one vote on Facebook, so maybe it's a little disingenuous to say that, but nobody voted for the movie on either of our polls. Also on Twitter, Peter Parker is lit at Marvel DC Fanboy, one of our biggest fans, commented to say that why he loves the book more than the movie is the nostalgia factor.
That's fair.
That's totally fair. And I think that's, with any kind of property that is kind of universally beloved from people's childhoods, it's going to be hard for a movie to measure up. We also had a comment over on Instagram. We don't run polls on Instagram because they don't have a poll feature for that yet.
Yeah, I'm sure
they're working on it.
They kind of do with stories.
But I don't know
how it works.
I don't like the stories feature because I'm too old and I don't understand it.
Yeah, but you can kind of do polls with stories, kind of.
Yeah. So on Instagram, we had another podcast, Dustin and Katie Can Read.
Is that the name of the podcast? Or is that their
I think
Instagram
so.
handle? Yeah, I think you might be right. I think you're right.
Another Katie.
Yeah, another one.
How dare.
Another one.
And they said the movie is more of an homage to the book. For those who grew up with it and were creeped out. I don't think the movie was ever intended to be truly frightening since it's somewhat aimed at school-age viewers.
Yeah.
Which we did talk about in our episode. We talked quite a bit about who the intended audience for this was supposed to be, because at least I felt like it got a little garbled along the way.
Yeah, we both thought it felt like they had a little bit of a mixed idea of who they were trying to make the movie for, and it definitely feels like it's going for younger kids because it's not like an R, or it's not like super scary, but also we're a little confused about but the people who are nostalgic for this and who read this are older people, like people in their 30s and stuff. So
and then the time period of the it's like the 60s
and then
completely
going for
threw
the
us
60s
for a loop.
nostalgia was like, well, who's that appealing to, really? It was a little strange, but similar points to what we kind of thought about it. Cool. All right, that was our follow-up stuff on Scary Stories. Now let's go and talk about Prince Caspian, the book.
I don't remember any ruins in Narnia.
I wonder who lived here.
I think we did.
I think it's time we found out what went on here.
Who are you?
I am Prince Caspian.
All right, so Prince Caspian is a high fantasy novel for children by A1 C.S. Lewis. It was published in 1951 and originally published as Prince Caspian, subtitle, The Return to Narnia. Very dramatic.
There you go.
I don't know if maybe he was trying to scoot in on that Return of the King,
possible
Lord of the Rings thing. But anyway, so this was the second published of the 7 novels that are in the Chronicles of Narnia. And Lewis actually finished writing it in 1949 before The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was officially out on the market. It's so it was the second one published, but within the internal chronology of the book series, it's actually volume 4.
Yeah.
So any recent sets of the Chronicles of Narnia that you might pick up are going to list that as volume 4, but it was actually the second book that he wrote and published.
Interesting.
In this series. Similar to like a Star Wars, where like episodes 1, 2, and 3 came out after.
Yeah. Well, this one's kind of has
6,
a couple in the middle, which is weird.
Yeah, but like
strange.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd...
To me, it almost seems like he wrote the second one, or he wrote this one, and then decided, I'd rather go back and tell some stories in between.
Yeah.
And did that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, having a plan, like, okay, I'm going to write this one, and then I'm going to go back and tell 2 and 3.
I think, like, I suspect what happened was, like, he invented this world, and he just really liked playing in it. And then we'll kind of talk about it after we watch the movie and read the book, but he kind of boxed himself in with his main characters. So, maybe following this, he was like, well, maybe I'll go back and I'll like tell some other stuff that happened before the 4 main kids got there.
Yeah. Well, doesn't this, the only thing I read is that doesn't this story take place like 1,300 years after in Narnia? Oh, sorry. I don't know if
that is actually my very next point. This novel is predominantly about a return to Narnia by the 4, and I'm going to mispronounce this because I never remember how to say it.
I don't either. Pevensey
children. So Peter, Edmund, Susan, and Lucy, who are our main characters in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, they come back to Narnia. Only about a year has passed for them in England, but it's been 1,300 years in Narnia. So we have a big time jump when they get back there. Some of the major themes of the story are courage, chivalry, pretty standard stuff. And as Lewis himself said in a letter, the restoration of the true religion after a corruption. So we talked a little bit about C.S. Lewis in our Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe prequel. So we know that he was a religious type fella.
And these are slightly allegorical.
Yes.
At times.
Although he would have said no, not allegorical, but we're going to take issue with that. They are definitely, at least The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is definitely an allegory.
I think we were talking about, I think we did do Learning Things segment, or maybe we just talked about it, because I remember talking about this before.
I didn't listen to it, but I looked at our notes, and we weren't doing an official segment, but we did talk a lot about C.S. Lewis and a little bit about like an allegory and what is an allegory.
Because I remember discussing that in the prequel episode.
Yeah,
I guess
it was kind of like a Learning Things before we were doing Learning Things. Yeah,
cool.
Another interesting thing about this, as some scholars have noted, is the Telmarine. I probably am saying that wrong too, because I really have no idea. It looks like Telmarine. The Telmarine conquest of Narnia, as it is depicted in the books, is in a lot of ways similar to the historical Norman conquest of England. There's not really a precise parallel in English history to the events of this book, but like the end result where the old Narnians... Oh, spoilers,
God
sorry. The end result is similar to the historical process that happened with the Saxons and the Normans in England a long time ago.
Where are the Normans from?
Normandy?
So French. Interesting. We'll get back to that a little bit.
We'll get back to that. And I'm sure we'll probably talk a little bit more about that in the episode. So in addition to the 2008 movie that we're going to be comparing this book to, the book has also been adapted for the stage, and it has been adapted as a 2-episode BBC special, along with The Voyage of the Dawn Treader in 1989. The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which we'll get to at some point because it is my favorite Narnia book.
And it's the last movie that they made.
Yes, it's the last movie that they made. I've heard rumor that they're going to be making more. Obviously not with the original actors because they're not kids anymore.
Like in their 20s and 30s.
But I did hear rumor that they might be revisiting the
that wouldn't
Narnia
surprise me.
Series. Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if we just get a remake.
Yeah, I'm sure it would just be a remake.
Because like the first one was pretty successful, but the rest of them didn't do great.
didn't do super, not too hot.
And even the first one, while it was, I think, critically meh, it made money. I don't think like people didn't like love it. Like in the same way of like the Lord of the Rings.
Right, no, it did not garner that same kind of audience.
Yeah, or even like the Harry Potter
movies. And I think it is ripe for a remake. I think there's a lot to work with this series. Yep. And it could be really interesting if it's done right.
Cool. All right, that was it for Book Facts. Let's go ahead and talk about the movie.
You may find Narnia a more savage place than you remember.
All that you know is about to change.
Prince Caspian is a 2008 film written and directed by Andrew Adamson, who directed and wrote the first film. He co-wrote the films, but he directed and wrote the first film. He also directed Shrek and Shrek 2. Huh. And he wrote some of the later Shrek movies. I didn't realize that either. I don't know how we missed that earlier, because I think we had done Shrek already.
Yeah, we did do Shrek. I don't remember if we did it before or after we did.
It's possible that if we did it after that.
Yeah, I don't remember talking about the director at all, but I think that's because we just talked
He's
about
also not
Jeffrey Katzenberg and his terrifying teeth a
right.
lot.
Yeah, and he hasn't done much other than the Shrek franchise and this franchise. He hasn't done a lot in terms of like big directing things. He's done some other stuff. He's rumored to be or announced as directing the Curious George film that's being made. Because he's like in animation and like he works in like that a lot. So
he's carved out a very specific niche for himself.
Yeah, kind of like kids movies.
Yeah.
Heavy in animation or CG type of things. Screenplay for the film was started, and like you said earlier, that C.S. Lewis finished the script for this before the first movie or the first book came out, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. The screenplay for this film was started before Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe came out. And the main reason they did that for the film was because they wanted to be able to produce it right away so that the kids, like Harry Potter or whatever, the kids didn't age a ton between
That's fair.
the different films. Although this did come out 3 years later, so.
I understand that. That's got to be brutal for kid actors, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, geez Louise.
Theirs wasn't as bad as like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Harry Potter was like nonstop. They get like a couple months off. There was 3 years in between these two, so they probably had a year off roughly to, maybe. But yeah, Jordu Schell was the creature designer who has made an appearance on Face Off before, if you're a Face Off fan. And Howard Berger was a special effects makeup designer who's also been on Face Off before, which is a sci-fi original TV show. Not the movie with John Travolta. The sci-fi original TV show that we both like a lot. It's a competitive makeup TV show, kind of like any of your
it's no longer on the air, but it ran for like 13
there's like 13 seasons,
so there's plenty to watch.
Like your Project Runway or
it is a Project Runway format,
that
where
type
they
of
have
thing.
like
One
challenges.
person goes home every week and that sort of thing, but it's for special effects movie makeup, and both these people were like guest judges or something like that. They're kind of legends in their field. Jordu Schell I know specifically, or no, Howard Berger now is working on I saw a picture of him working on the makeup for the Orville. He's worked on tons of stuff, but that's one of the things he's currently working on. The production designer, last one on that one is that, according to Berger, 4,600 makeup jobs were performed for this film, which he thinks is probably a record for the most makeups ever in a film. Production designer Roger Ford originally wanted the Telmarines to be French.
Which would make sense.
As they had a confrontational history with the English, and that's the Pevensey's are sort of the English family. And that was the original idea. They scrapped that, though, because they weren't able to shoot at a French castle that they wanted to shoot at. That was going to be like the villain's castle.
Like his lair.
Yeah, but they weren't able to shoot there. So they decided to go Spanish instead and took everything into like a Spanish feel. And they also incorporated eagle emblems into the armor and stuff of the Telmarines to make them feel more fashy. because eagles are super fishy. This now begins the IMDb trivia section, which means take these as you will. There's only a few of them, but who knows how real they are. Anna Popplewell, who is Susan, plays Susan in the movies. She was disappointed, apparently, that in the first movie she didn't get to use her bow very much because she has a bow and that's like her character's thing, but she didn't really use it much. And she told the director, and she was upset about it, and so they altered this film's script to add more scenes of her using the bow.
Oh, that's supposedly.
Nice. Yeah. Tilda Swinton reprises her role as the White Witch, which I don't remember what happened at the end. I truly don't remember how the first one ended. I might have to go do a quick recap, cliff notes of how that movie ended, because I was like, didn't she die? I don't remember. She reprises her role as the White Witch. It could be a flashback or whatever. She also makes a short cameo as a centaur, which I want to look out for that because I want to see Tilda Swinton as a centaur.
You know what? That makes sense. Somehow that feels right. Tilda Swinton as a centaur.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense. Ben Barnes plays Prince Caspian. People may know Ben Barnes. He's been in a fair number of things. The thing I recognized him most from is he's the former best friend turned villain. That's a slight spoiler, maybe, in the Punisher TV series on Netflix. So if you're watching the Punisher series, the guy who's like...
Wait, did I watch this?
Yeah,
season?
we watched the Punisher.
I don't remember.
It's only been one season of it, I think. There might be a second season now, but we only watched the first season. But he's like his friend who's like a security contractor and owns his own security company.
God, I don't remember
that guy. Which I think is interesting in retrospect. Thinking about that, he's like this character in the Marvel TV universe but his like big breakout role was playing a prince in. Like a dashing prince in a fantasy movie, because Daredevil, the actor Charlie Cox who plays Daredevil, was in Stardust. Well,
actually, you know who else was in Stardust very briefly? Ben Barnes.
Oh, was he?
He's the younger version of the dad at the very beginning.
Oh, you're right.
Who crosses the wall.
You're right.
Gets
Interesting.
down.
There must be some connection there that I didn't suss out between these things of somehow. I don't know. It's interesting. But anyways.
Well, I don't... Well,
this is Disney.
Yeah, this is Disney, and Marvel is Disney now.
I don't know.
But I don't think Stardust has any connection to Disney.
I don't know. Anyways. So Ben Barnes, who plays Caspian, he apparently, according to IMDb, patterned his Spanish accent, because he's not Spanish, on Mandy Patinkin's Inigo Montoya accent in this The Princess Bride. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I want to see how much that sounds similar, or how similar that sounds. During filming, Georgie Henley, who plays Lucy, the youngest, the sister, lost 2 of her baby teeth, and they had to make a bridge to fill the gaps in her mouth so that she just had the same teeth the whole movie, so it wasn't distracting. And final fun fact, Andrew Garfield, the late great Spider-Man, the once and former Spider-Man.
Spider-Man no one remembers.
The middle Spider-Man from the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which the first one of those is pretty good. The second one I never saw, but I heard wasn't good. The first one I thought was fine.
I never saw any of them.
First one of those, the first Amazing Spider-Man, it's not great, but it's fine. He auditioned.
You heard it here, folks.
It's fine. It's totally fine. He auditioned for the role of Prince Caspian. So
interesting.
Didn't get it, obviously.
He would not have looked very Spanish, I feel like.
I don't feel like Ben Barnes looks particularly Spanish.
I guess that's fair.
I honestly think that Andrew Garfield looks about as Spanish as Ben Barnes does. They both have dark hair and I
don't know. Andrew Garfield, I don't know. I don't know if he would have looked appropriately period enough.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe that's why he didn't get the role.
Maybe not, but I don't know what you're thinking of him in, because he was supposedly really good in. He's been in a couple period pieces. He was in a Scorsese film.
Was he?
As like a Catholic priest in. Oh. It was like this big thing. Yeah, it was like him and somebody else. And it was like a period piece from like the 40s. I don't know. I think it was around like World War II, but or after World War II. Anyways, I think it's called Silence or something. He might have been able to do it. Anyways, but that's that. That's all the facts I had. He didn't get the role. Ben Barnes did. So yeah, that's it. I had only ever seen the first one. I saw the first one before we did it for the show. Rewatched it. Had similar feelings of meh, fine, it's okay. doesn't hold a candle to like Lord of the Rings or anything. Yeah. But it was fine. This one's these two, well, this one specifically and the next one, I think were both less well received than the first one even.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
I saw this one in theaters. Like my mom
it less or more than
me and my siblings to see it. And I don't remember a ton about it, but I feel like I recall thinking that it was not a great adaptation.
Okay.
So.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. They originally, one of the other facts I didn't put in here said that at one point they considered combining the Voyage of the Dawn Treader and this one together.
That would have made sense. That would have made sense.
Yeah, like you said, that's kind of what the TV
BBC
special did, which is what I read.
Because Prince Caspian is in Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
But they considered combining them, but then ultimately decided against it and just made it a separate movie. So
I mean, gotta make that money.
Yeah,
honey.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm interested to see if it's any good. Maybe it'll surprise me. I'll actually like it because it's got pirates, right? Aren't they kind of? It's not pirates, but they're kind of piratey.
They're kind of piratey.
They're pirate inspired, which is one of the reasons they went Spanish. Apparently, was because of the like sort of vaguely piratiness of the Telmarines. They were like Spanish pirates. That's the thing. Let's do that. So, yeah. All right. Cool. That's in 1 week. We got to figure out where we can watch this.
Yeah.
Online or something.
Probably.
See if you can find it somewhere streaming and come back in 1 week. And until that time, guys, gals, non-binary, and everybody else,
keep reading books,
keep watching movies,
and keep being awesome.